Hey, how are you?
So good to see you.
Nice to see you guys. So tell me about your thoughts on 19
Well, I mean, what an
in general,
incredible
white and red. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everyone's saying the same thing. This is 19 is, I think, one of the most gracious vintages we've ever received. It had the right amount of rainfall at the beginning of the season. We were actually a little bit concerned as we started the growing season because things were just a little bit delayed. About 10 days delayed bud break compared to 2018. But everything caught up with a nice warm summer and canopies were balanced, fruit level was balanced, crop load was balanced, and you just flew into another incredible, long, precise, gentle harvest. It's hard to not do too many superlatives about 2019.
Yields were lower than 18 as well, so that helps with the concentration. So in my opinion, it's too, I mean, you realize that sometimes it's hard to find the points of difference, but clearly the yields was one of them.
Yeah.
And of course that brings a different level of concentration to the wine. So out of a very smooth vintage in terms of temperatures, you realize that you have a little extra power and makes the wines absolutely fantastic. I mean, we're very excited about them.
Yeah, and I think it was 2018, an excellent vintage too, but as Rodrigo said, the crop was a little bit larger. So comparatively, 2019, the cluster weight was about 6% lighter. So the berries were a little bit smaller than 2018, but the tannins were actually bigger in 2018 than 2019.
Yeah,
so
that's
that ratio of skin to pulp in 2019 with the amount of tannin made for really balanced extraction. So it's, sometimes if you have too big of a berry or too small of a berry, it can set you off balance. And 2019 was pretty easy in terms of extraction on the phenolics.
I found that a lot of, 19s obviously are a little bit more fruit driven than 18. And maybe you're right about the tannins, that they're, they're not as obvious, because a lot of wines, I haven't tasted your wine yet, but a lot of wines are much more in that sort of fruit forward, rich style, which is good as long as they still have a nice tannin backbone. Otherwise, they get a bit, too much.
Yeah, and having that warm but not hot summer, and then even harvest season, it allowed us to pick at good low Brix levels and have that freshness, that bright acidity, and that freshness in the palate that you will see when you taste the 19.
In the Sauvignon Blanc, how did you get such a great, really good acid energy at the end? Like that zesty, just kicks in. It's so good.
Oh, thank you.
Did you pick some like earlier and then some later? Is that what you do?
Yeah, so some come a little bit earlier, some come later.
Yeah.
It's the sites themselves are slightly different. It's 85% Sauvignon Blanc and about 60% of that is Sauvignon Muscat. So you get that tropical sort of fruit flavors from the Muscat, and then the Sauvignon Blanc has that kicking acidity. And then it's the barrel fermentation. Yeah. So there's about 10% stainless steel barrels. So that's what gives you that kick in the finish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. I remember that Arajo used to do that.
Yeah. So we're using concrete eggs, a little bit of new French oak, acacia wood barrels, neutral barrels, and then some stainless steel barrels for that finish.
Okay, let's try the red.
Okay. Shall we start with 19 or?
Yeah. What you get right away with the wine, which is nice too. A lot of wines just right away have that flamboyant fruit character. And it's, some are just red fruits, a few blue, but some are like plums, and some go to prunes, obviously, because people left the grapes out longer. But your wine has much more of the forest floor, like mushrooms, bark, right?
Yeah.
Like the valley in the morning, like at 7 a.m. with the fog over it.
Mhm.
and you
Yeah,
get
the
that real
feeling of-
smell, right?
That's a big compliment, because we have been discussing this a lot, James, and obviously for us, having the earthy notes is very important when we want to talk about sense of place, when we want to talk about farming and the importance of the surroundings of the vineyard, all of that. If you don't have the fingerprint of the earthiness of the property, it becomes a little more like a conversation. But now that it's a big compliment for us that you're getting that, because we really like those primary, those aromatics that talks about the place. It's a good introduction to talk about the property.
Yeah, I can really see it, just like the little mound of Quintessa, and you can just really smell it, like when you're up there tasting and the trees are around.
Yes.
So 19 for us has been a good progression, as we were talking with Rebekah, in terms of the level of precision that we're trying to acquire, in terms of including, as you know, a lot of years of experience in the property, but also adding that fresh knowledge and new things that we start with 2018, and of course with the benefit of an incredible vintage as well. I think it only shows better and more. And as we were talking before in our previous conversation last year about the new learning of pruning, the new learning of dissecting the soils, the deeper understanding of our biodynamic farming practices, and also get that mirror effect with the redesign of the winery has been a very, very powerful statement for us, in terms of how important is in order to get to the next level, to be that precise. And I think it's starting to show. Definitely we're very excited about those elements that we're kind of re-engaging with.
And what I like about the wine too is it's so drinkable right now. Like you know, and by the way, it's 9:23 a.m. in the morning, and I almost want to drink it.
Yeah,
because the tannins are so fine, you know, but then round at the same time, and it has such a nice presence.
You're talking about the mounds of hills here, and our diversity of this estate, where we go all the way from the river to the Vaca mountain range. So it's like the way for me this wine is entering in my mouth is like I'm coming from the river. I get that plushness, that roundness, and as I can like walk over the estate and progress through this wine, I see the differences in the volcanics, the iron, the minerality, and then finishing with that white soils from the Vaca mountain range, kind of that length and lift at the end.
I'm surprised how your wine came out. So it really is very. You must do it all the time. I'm sorry I didn't get to taste it against the 18, but maybe I have some at the restaurant. But I'd like to see how it compares, because it's really on the same wavelength. It's not, at least what I remember, it's not. So many of the 19s that I've tasted are much more fruity. Like the more, let's say, traditional Napa style, and this really is just like hemmed in, like you say, precise, and it reminds me a lot of it seems like an 18, like a top 18. So I'm happy to see that. Like, how did you do that? Or did, because of the biodynamic, like the vines just gave you that? Like, did you tweak it, like picking earlier, or did you use more canopy? Like, what did you do to get such a refined and, I would say, subtle wine?
Yeah.
Right?
It all is, the wine is an expression of the vineyard and the biodynamic farming principles that we use and practices. And by the way, James, we are now certified biodynamic.
With Demeter?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Well done.
Yeah. So we've been practicing since 1996 and are now certified as well. But I think that we're talking about, like, are we picking earlier? Are we making those decisions? It's all a continuation of the learning and understanding of the vineyard, and understanding that what this vineyard, these blocks, what they want to show well, we shouldn't have to, and we don't want to have to wait for super ripeness. We want to show that character, show the character of the context, the flavor of the forest floors, the brightness of the fruit, not the black and pruny kind of character.
We have been discussing two vintages a lot lately, which has been 2011, which inform us a lot of things in terms of picking decisions and going a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
And obviously 2018. Yeah. So in that regard, James, I mean, we realize we have this mental picture of how the vines needs to look to get what we want, depending on the soils that they grow. And we're trying to connect all the dots in a way that in order to find that freshness that Rebekah is talking about, in order to find that chalky finish in the white soils, in order to get the graphite, we are informing us a little bit of how we can achieve that and what the canopy and the plant needs to look and feel like in terms of the season so that we can be consistent through time. For us, I think that one of the things that we have learned as the vineyard ages is that consistency has become very relevant and very important. And I can totally hear you of those kind of flashy vintages that can go more in the fruit side. That is where I will say, Rebekah plays the art of restraint the most because, hey, 2019 was easy to wait. I mean, you can wait all day long and you can get as ripe as we want it. But the whole, I think in our opinion, we believe that it's so important to pull back a little bit and allow the earthy tones to be there, allow the chalkiness, the acidity, the brightness, all those elements needs to be there and farm accordingly so that you can capture that.
When you say consistency, I think that what you're trying to say is where the wine has like real, let's say, unique, like terroir character, like that. So it's not that you tweaked anything to get that forest character, the less fruity character. That's actually the character of the terroir of your unique place, your vineyards that are giving you, just like in Saint-Emilion on the Côte Larcis du Cas or whatever, Canon, whatever, and you get this special limestone character. But you're just holding back a bit so the fruit doesn't just come out and dominate that and takes away the character of your unique place on earth, right?
Exactly right.
We're facilitating the flavors of the property. That's all what we do. We try to facilitate the flavors to come up and capture them in the right moment, independently on the variety, independently on the site. We're trying to understand the flavors of Quintessa and the textures of Quintessa. That has been kind of the motivation on the last couple of years in terms of really translating all that acquired knowledge and vision into these elements that we try to, what is the best vehicle in terms of farming or making, in terms of bring those flavors up and maintain them through time, independently on the season. Of course, we need to react and dance with the season as much as we can, but at the same time, how we can be consistent and classic. I think that is what we're looking for in the wine.
Fantastic. I get that. Well, let's try the 11. And I think it's interesting. When I saw it, I didn't know you were that they had the 11, and it made me smile because, I was one of the few critics that actually liked 11 just because I understood, because it was one of the first vintages I tasted when I left the Wine Spectator. And it was what I was looking for because at the time there were so many people pushing the envelope on really ripe, pruny wines. And then 11 came, it was cold. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, I like these wines. I think I even gave Screaming Eagle 100. People are like, what? And the Spectator and Parker just slaughtered the vintage. Well, it's really good. But it really has that character of 19, but fresh mushrooms, like the mushrooms that are growing on the ground, like porcini or oyster mushrooms. It's not where wine gets old and it starts smelling of dried mushrooms. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah, this is This has been a favorite vintage of mine. I know Rodrigo's too.
This is every time that we try this wine feels like a treat. I mean, it's such a unique season. Obviously, it's so fresh and vivid right now. The vitality of the wine is so present. And I'm sure at the moment that it was released, it need time to integrate, obviously, for obvious reasons. But right now, it's showing incredibly well. It's amazing how premature sometimes we can classify things that we do not understand or that we don't feel comfortable with. And I think that 2011 is a perfect example of that. That, hey, didn't came out the way that we wanted, it's a bad one. Not necessarily. I think that there's a lot of learning there.
It actually tastes more like wines from the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Classics. Yes.
Classic. Yeah. It's a real, like vintages like 2011 as a winemaker. I think if you are willing to learn and listen, they teach you the most. Because you.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah. It forces you to listen as opposed to
but
just.
But also if you drink old wines, then you understand it much more.
It's
like
so
luckily in Hong Kong, we do all the time. So, well, listen, I'm going to I'll be drinking this maybe Saturday. It's so good.
Thank you.
It's just in a really nice place down and very subtle and complex. And I really like I'm going to go and taste the 19 against the 18 and see but I think they're pretty much on the same level.
Yeah, that's a fun comparison. And just see the light differences because I think there are a few, but definitely it's in that kind of consistency. And that
to sort of figure it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, I got to run off because I have another Zoom, but it was really great to see you guys. Sorry, I'm not in Napa, but I really enjoyed your 19s and they're fantastic wines. Is the 19 Quintessa Red in the market already?
No,
it will be released in September.
September 1st. It's our release
22.
date.
Okay.
Yeah. As you know, we have been with.
That's through the negociation. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And you know what, James, the reception has been phenomenal. I mean, we're very, very excited, and for us, it's a learning curve in terms of working with the international and again, the benchmarks changed completely. It's a very different set of rules and different wines. And I think that it always keeps us more excited about what we can do with this estate.
Yeah, I agree. And also the character of Quintessa has really good resonance with international drinkers because, they're not always looking for just fruit forward wines. They're looking for complexity and subtlety and structure in a sort of classical way. So your wines really make sense internationally.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Okay, well, listen, we'll catch up.
Take good care and good to see you. Let us know when you come, okay?
All right.
I will, of course. Abrazo.
Un abrazo.
Sí, cuídate. Chao.
Igual, chao.